Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Francis, and you're watching the Horror Show channel. Boo!
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? My name is Cecil Laird, and I am here with Boogie2988, coming at you live once again through the power of the internet.
You did. Oh my God, you nailed it.
I actually had to practice a little bit just so I didn't screw up in front of the man himself.
Oh, that was so good. You stroked my ego so well. Thank you. Now
I'm
I
a
feel
big
like
fan.
a hero.
I'm a big
Well,
fan.
thank
Yeah,
you.
no.
Well, you're not that big. I'm bigger still. Look at this.
Barely,
You're taller.
barely.
You're taller.
I had you by a couple 100 pounds for a while there, but
Yeah,
now
yeah.
you're encroaching on my space,
You
brother.
know, I hit like 340 pounds, and it just seems to be my roadblock.
Yeah.
And I really want to push past it, but I kind of like being here, if I'm being honest, because I can do everything I want to do. I still know for my health I need to lose like another 100. But man, this is my high school weight. I'm so happy at 340 pounds.
It's an awesome journey that you've been on, and I appreciate as a fan you taking us along for the ride.
Well, thank you. It's been great at points, and I know I'm helping people. Sometimes, I don't know, it feels there's a lot of negativity that comes with it, you know, just being on the internet and being online. And it gets tough sometimes, but knowing that if I'm helping people want to lose the weight, if I'm helping people learn from my mistakes and just do better than I did, that's the most important thing in the world to me. That's all I care about.
What I liked was just, I think it was the most recent video you put up. You finally put up your trip to Disney. Or Universal Studios.
Right,
Universal Studios. And you had kind of the same problem that I had, and I think you actually talked about it on the H3 podcast, which I was just watching their new one. Boogie is by the way, proper accreditation here, Boogie is a massive YouTuber. He's got a
I'm
huge
a little
audience.
less massive. Oh, now let's be fair. I have 4.5 million subscribers, but I'm lucky to get like 100,000 video views per upload. But I'm glad to still be getting that because I've been on the platform for 13 years. How many other YouTubers manage to stay relevant other than like DeFranco or Shane Dawson for 13 years? I'm so lucky that I still have an audience at all. But thank you. I appreciate that. I would say I'm an OG YouTuber more than I would say a big YouTuber these days, but I'm still glad just to have an audience at all.
Well, and I'm glad you've taken the journey because I know that part of why you weren't able or weren't even willing really to travel around was because
I physically
of the
couldn't.
size.
Yeah, I physically couldn't.
So we love on so many different levels. We love you. We love seeing you get healthy. We love seeing you.
Right.
So it's
funny
all
because
wonderful.
we're right now in Phoenix, Arizona, and my brother lived, I think, in Tucson for a long time, and he always wanted me to come out and visit. I just never would. And then I told him I'm going out to Arizona. He goes, why? And I'm like, oh, I want to get to meet some fans, man. Like, that's the most important thing in the world. Because you wouldn't come out here to meet your own brother. I'm like, well, to be fair, I was 600 pounds. I don't think I could survive this heat.
Yeah.
I can barely survive it now.
It's pretty rough, my friend. It's pretty rough. And being natives, it's still nothing you really get used to, even living here.
But I was in a wheelchair for 90% of what I was doing. I was... I mean, obviously, like when I would go to VidCon or big events like that, I would have to do like the motorized scooter or stuff. But I was in a wheelchair going to the doctor's office, even grocery shopping a lot of the times. 2 years ago, almost exactly to the date, I couldn't walk from here to the table behind us, just without being in excruciating pain. And then recently I did a total of, I think, 10 total miles in one day, which is my new record, which I'm sure to the people listening at home, that's not a big deal to you guys. And I'm glad it's not a big deal to you guys. Like, stay healthy, be fit, walk as much as you can. But for me, that was the first time I'd ever walked. I don't think I'd ever walked 10 miles.
Shit, man, you went spelunking with McJuggernuggets.
That was a scary day. You want to talk about horror?
Yeah.
I didn't know that I was going to be able to get out of that cave because those stairs were so incredible. And it was supposed to be like an hour-long tour, but it took us 3 hours because I was so slow. But we managed to make it, and that was one of the very first times. I mean, I paid for that for the next, because we also had to film that night, the last part of our collaboration where I played a cannibal, like trying to eat him.
The
and
meat
like,
man, essentially.
Yeah, meat, right? Daddy needs his meat. Just walking around shirtless with a meat apron on.
Yep.
But that was one of the very few times I got to play the really evil bad guy. That was fun. I want to be a monster movie killer one day, but that next day I got out of bed and I fell almost out of bed. I was like, I couldn't move.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, let's go get lunch. I'm like, you bring me lunch because I'm not moving. I couldn't move. It was tough.
You know, and I hope you take this in the way it's intended, but honestly, that Meat Man character, you could legitimately play Professor Pig in a new Batman movie.
Please let me. I would love the opportunity to do that. I
Grant
love
Morrison creation. So
well, I appreciate the flatter. I don't think I'm that good of an actor, but I think when it comes to the bad guy, I've been enough around truly evil people to where I know how to play it, I think. And so I think that might be the thing I'm good at. I don't know that I could do compassionate, or I definitely couldn't play the leading man. Well, I think I could be the meat-eating monster cannibal. I definitely think I can do that.
Well, you make something spring to mind, and I haven't even delved into my official questions yet, so I'll try and be picky and choosy here and not take up too much of your time. But as a large YouTuber, and again, I keep saying large, and I keep realizing after the fact that it's not.
Oh, no, I love it, though. I love it. So, yeah.
But as a super popular YouTuber, you've had to deal with some situations that a lot of people would consider very scary, people coming to your door. You know, and you've mentioned it a couple of times, and you even tell people like, hey, guys, I appreciate that you're so enthusiastic, but please, don't come to my house. Don't surprise me. But that's like legitimately horror movie setup stuff.
There's three, to be honest with you, I genuinely believe there are monsters. There's real monsters in the world. I mean, I was raised by one. But that said, most people are genuinely good, right? And like my public address is I bought a house. You can find it. And most people just are never going to show up. And I've had a handful of
E3
experiences.
didn't help with that whole thing, did it?
Right. But probably my favorite story, I had my neighbors show up one day, and they're like, hey, we know you live here. We know you're going in for surgery tomorrow. We're really afraid you're going to get sick, and we want to come give you some love. And I was like, that's great, but also this is my last night before my surgery. I'd like to spend it with my wife, you know. But I did photos with them and stuff like that. Normally, you show up at my front door, you're not going to get photos, but I did it for them because I think they meant well. Yeah. And then I had another guy show up at my front door, and he's like, we're going to be best friends. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, hey, do I know you? Are you delivering flowers or something? And he's like, oh, no, that's just my work truck. You know, I drive it back and forth for work. And he's like, I was watching your videos, and you mentioned that you were from Fayetteville, and I said, I'm from Fayetteville. And so I just flipped over to another window, and I started searching for your address, and I found it. And then after finding your address, I don't even remember getting in the car. I just drove here, and now here I am.
Whoa.
And I'm like, we didn't own a gun at the time. We own one now, but we didn't have a gun at the time. And but we did keep a baseball bat near the door. So I leaned behind the door and grabbed the baseball bat, and I was like, all right, you got to go. I don't think he could see the baseball bat. I wasn't like threatening with it. But I'm like, you got to go. And he goes, why? We're going to be friends. And I'm like, no, you've ruined any chances of being friends by showing up unannounced. I don't even let my friends pop in. I'm like, go home, write me an email. That's the correct way to do that, right? And he goes, well, right, I'll go home. I'll write you that email right now. You'll see. We'll be friends. And he did write me an email, and it was kind of scary. And I'm sure the guy was just struggling. At the end of the day, I don't think there's any malice in his heart. And then the other example that I love to use, I had a guy show up not too long after the H3 podcast. He showed up at my front door, knocked on it, woke me up because I normally sleep till about noon most days. Opened the door. I'm grumpy. And he goes, are you Boogie? And I'm like, yeah, obviously, dude. What can I do for you? And he goes, I don't like what you said on the H3 podcast. And I said, oh, are you here to kill me?
Oh, Jesus.
And he's like, no, of course not. And I'm
Street.
like, then go fuck off. And I closed the door. And then he just stood out there for like 5 minutes trying to figure out what to do, because I guess he was expecting something completely different from that.
A back and forth.
Like we were going to argue about it. I'm like, I know some of the stuff I said on the H3 podcast is stupid. I don't need you to come to my house to tell me. I made a mistake. I'm a dumbass, you know?
Yeah, so that would be pretty intense, man.
It is, but at the end of the day, whereas true monsters really do exist, and there is a chance one will show up at my front door. The best part about the real world is I have complete faith that 99% of the people out there are just genuinely good people who don't mean bad things, right? I think we're all just trying to struggle, and we're all trying to get along, and occasionally some of us get imbalanced enough to where we do something horrible. But for the most part, I trust people.
Awesome.
It's hard to with social anxiety. Don't get me wrong. It's hard to, because I'm scared of just, somebody got upset earlier today. She threw her wig in the trash, and she was like screaming outside of the security. And I couldn't figure out what was going on, and like that terrifies me.
You take that in, right?
Right.
Like empathic.
That's the kind of thing that really gets me like nervous and scared. Like part of me wants to go help her and try to figure out what's going on, but part of me just wants to get away because who knows? you know.
Yeah. Maybe it was a video of yours she just watched.
It could have been. She's the female Francis. Call me if you're watching. I got your wig. No, it's good.
I'm excited. Speaking of Francis, just real quickly, for those uninitiated, just a little bit about what Boogie does on his channel.
Oh, yeah.
I'll put it in my words and then I'll let him put it in his words. Just real briefly, he has a rambling series, which is his kind of vlogging series. He also has a gaming news series, which I believe he says does pretty well for him. He's going to start a lot more travel vlogs.
Right, and that's what I've been trying to do. I've been trying to go to Disney and all kinds of different places, different cons and stuff, because I feel like that's the content I'm most interested in doing right now. And then, of course, then the Francis stuff.
That's what I was going to get to, because that's going to be less on YouTube now and more moving over to...
Right. So, well, so YouTube is at a point where they don't want anything that they consider to be borderline content. And I've been told directly by YouTube that they consider me to be borderline content because of the swearing and the fake anger and the fake yelling and all that stuff. And like they said, how do we teach a robot what sarcasm is? Right? I can barely teach Reddit what sarcasm is at this point, so much less a robot. So we're hoping to have a place for that. With the Storyfire app, or you go to storyfire.com. McJuggernuggets, who made the Psycho series, is uploading videos there. Kid Behind a Camera, who did the Angry Grandpa series, he's uploading videos there. Lance Stewart, who does pranks, because pranks really aren't welcome on YouTube anymore. And we're hoping to be in position for as more and more YouTubers like us get demonetized or get pushed down to the algorithm, that they can find a place where they can still create what they love and find an audience. And I'm hoping one day that we'll be able to compete with YouTube on that level. I think right now we're just in a position where we're going to work in tandem with YouTube, right? Like as they demonetize certain content, then we'll pick them up. But I'm hoping at one point we'll be big enough to where YouTube has to stand up and take notice and maybe realize they've made a mistake pushing creators like me and maybe you one day off of the platform, and will have given them a home and monetized them. And, you know, Jesse's McJuggernuggets, the guy who owns the platform, is giving a much better split, 70-30 about ad revenue. There's no advertiser regulations. Everybody that advertises there advertises on all content. You don't have to worry about being demonetized. The audience is smaller for now, but we're getting downloads every day. So hopefully it'll be big soon enough.
Now, Francis is a lot of where you got, a healthy amount of your viewers throughout the past years. Now,
and they are very frustrated to see less of that content.
So that's what I'm wondering. Obviously you're not Francis. A lot of people don't know that, though. Do you still, to this day, even after having been on the platform for 13 years, do you still struggle to find that balance? When someone approaches you, do you have to kind of like wait and see what
I'm
they're
struggling
expecting?
to find everything these days. But I still see it from time to time. Somebody in a video recently would be like, wow, he's changed so much. Getting those new teeth really fixed his voice. And because they were expecting me to sound like the old school Francis character. They don't really know.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, no. Like, to this day, there's people out there who genuinely believe that was me. And that probably my favorite is somebody's like, man, he's so full of himself now that he's got speech therapy. And I'm like, what is happening?
They're always going to find something that you're doing wrong, even if you're not doing it wrong.
And I do plenty of things wrong, don't get me wrong. So that's easy enough, right? But that said, there was a group of... I'll go back to what the creators of Rick and Morty said. Justin Roiland, who's the other guy?
Dan Harmon.
Dan Harmon, who blocked me on Twitter, by the way. Unblocked me, Dan. But Dan Harmon has this opinion that too many people like Rick. And he doesn't want people to like Rick. To which I countered, you shouldn't have made Rick so likable, which is what got me blocked.
Well, he's likable, except because, you know why? It's because he put in those moments where Rick actually has a heart. And so he's become now the douchebag that everyone likes to see be a douchebag, because we know. Right,
because even if you are a piece of crap, sometimes you're capable of doing good, and that's Rick, right? And some of us who are pieces of crap like me do identify with Rick in that way, that we want to do good like Rick does, right? And so he doesn't want me identifying with Rick. Well, I can kind of understand that, because I didn't want people identifying with Francis. Francis was supposed to be a parody of the angry gamer. That's supposed to be a parody. But then there were plenty of critics who were like, oh, that's just what he really thinks. And then there were even people who were like, man, you try to play the good guy, but you're actually really a monster. Look at you screaming. Look at you. And I'm like, but that's a character acting, right? Like, that's parody. And then there was a group of almost toxic fans who weren't watching Francis ironically. They were watching him because they agreed with him. They're the same people who might watch Breaking Bad and root for Walter White even in the final season. When you're not supposed to, by the way. Spoiler for an 8-year-old TV show. But it's interesting because that was... I still want to entertain these people, and I still want them to be part of the fold, but I want them to know. Like, you're not supposed to celebrate Francis. You were supposed to condemn him. That was the entire point of the character.
Right.
But I think we did too many hugging the sisters or hugging David or showing him as redeemable for him to be as hated as he was. And then it's interesting to see those same people now hating on me for being more true to myself.
That's weird.
And being, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
YouTube's a fickle place.
It really is.
How are we on time on there before you go? Okay, cool.
Okay, great.
So, being that we are here doing this interview at Game On Expo in Arizona, I had to bring up the fact that you have basically created for yourself the dream arcade that I've wanted in my house.
Oh, that Arcade 1-Up setup?
Oh my God, dude, that's so awesome.
Yeah, the folks at Arcade 1-Up, kind enough, I should make sure you guys know that they did send me those as review cabinets, and I got so very lucky. I had every machine except the golf one, but we destroyed the Space Invaders one for a McJuggernuggets crossover.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of really hurt. I'll replace it eventually, though.
Sure.
But it takes up a lot of the house, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what's interesting about it. A lot of people on my comment section is like, why wouldn't I just buy a Raspberry Pi or an emulator or just one machine that plays them all? And I'll tell you here. This is what I'm not getting paid to say this, but when I boot up my Raspberry Pi, I do have one. I have some 5,000 games on it. So I spend 20 minutes picking a game, and then I play a game for 5 minutes, and then I'm done. When I walk up to my Pac-Man machine, I know what I'm going to play. I'm going to play Pac-Man.
Yeah.
That's the advantage of having a dedicated machine like that. I know when I walk up to Pac-Man, I'm either playing Pac-Man or Pac-Man Plus because those are the two games that are in it. So instead of spending that 20 minutes sorting through games, I play that one game.
Yeah.
And it's a nice little break in the day. It's the same as I'd walk by the machine in the arcades at home, or when I was a kid. You see Pac-Man? Oh, I'm going to go put a quarter in Pac-Man. I play Pac-Man for 10 minutes. I'm done with Pac-Man for the day. So that's the advantage, I think. But they are expensive for what you get, but they are cool.
Yeah.
They are cool.
I thought about it every time. I'm like, man, that Street Fighter 2 machine sounds really cool. The Mortal Kombat machine sounds really cool. But I'm like, I just don't think I'd spend $300 worth of time at that machine.
Right, but they do drop in price every once in a while.
So that's what I'm keeping my eye on.
Yeah, pick them up when they do. Because I think 8-Bit Eric, who's here, by the way, told me that he got one of those machines for as cheap as $100.
Wow.
Yeah, on clearance. I forget which one it was.
Holy crap.
Might have been Defender or...
Okay.
Which, admittedly, I would say stay away from the Defender and stay away from the Asteroids and the Tempest one. Neither one of those are great.
Yeah, if I had a Raspberry Pi setup like you, it would be the Netflix paralysis, where you spend an hour scrolling through Netflix and you don't end up choosing anything because you're out of time.
Right, that's exactly it.
Now, being a horror show, we have to dive into that a little bit.
Please.
And I'm excited to, because one of my favorite, repeating, it's not really a series, but it's something you do every year when you go through your Halloween decorations, because you love Halloween.
Right, so I grew up in St. Paul, Virginia, and there was a family in that neighborhood that really went nuts for Halloween every year. And because of that, it just created this huge love for the entire neighborhood that their house was the one to go to. So I wanted to be that family when we bought our house, and I started off with just a few gravestones and a little bit of lighting, and then got my first animatronic figure, and now I'm up to 3, and I'll probably add another couple to the collection this year. And I only put the animatronics out of the night of, and then really going with the graveyard theme, and it's been a lot of fun. YouTube for me, haunt season is just one of my favorite times for YouTube. Watching all my favorite vloggers go to like Not Scary Farms and Universal's Horror Night, and last year I actually got to go near Christmas time to go do the Jack Skellington Haunted Mansion, and then I hadn't really been able to do haunted houses at my biggest size, but now that I can, I love them. But I grew up terrified of that stuff. I hated those movies growing up. Back when I was in my 20s, I guess it was, or maybe 20s is when the American Ring came out. That movie traumatized me. I was scared of my own television.
That's actually what I was going to ask. Was your first exposure to horror?
My first exposure was my mom watching The Evil Dead when I was 5, and I was in the room. And I didn't understand what was going on, but I was raised Christian, so she told me it was demons, and I'm like, well, demons are real. I don't know. I couldn't differentiate.
Oh, man.
And I remember just closing my eyes and like putting my head against the back of the couch, waiting for it to be over. But there's these demonic voices going 4, 7, 3, 2, 9. I'm like, what is happening? So that just traumatized me.
Yeah.
It really did. But somewhere in the last 10 years or so, I started with all like stuff like the Fatal. What's the Final Destination series?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like where they would blend comedy, like Scream, and started watching those and realized, oh, this stuff's actually meant to be funny, not scary most of the time. It's supposed to be like a thrill ride.
Sure.
And now I can really go back and enjoy the old stuff like Halloween and the Jason movies, the Friday the 13th. I haven't seen everything, but I've watched a lot. Really loved Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. That was really interesting.
That's a polarizing entry.
It's such a bizarre take on it, but I'm used to comic book world, so I'm used to alternative universes.
Yeah.
And I get that
this
is like a what if episode, and I was like, well, what if? And I took it as that way and loved it.
Yeah.
And then not soon after that, my friend Adam the Woo on YouTube took me to see the original Halloween house during a Hollywood tour.
That's awesome.
Got to see the Back to the Future street where the Lorraine and the family lived on. It was a really good tour. But it's been really interesting getting to see those movies. I don't like a lot of the more modern stuff, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like I told you I saw Hereditary.
Yeah.
And I did not like Hereditary. It was like, I don't know, I get that was innovative, and I'm glad it was innovative. Ugh.
It just didn't gel for you.
Right. I am looking forward to the Blair Witch game. That comes out this week.
That looks
this month.
This month, really?
This month,
okay,
yeah,
cool. Yeah, that does look
September,
good. That does look good. So, do you, as someone that does up your own house, and as someone that likes to go get scared, which do you prefer, scaring or being scared?
Oh, so I don't really try to go for too scary, though I should say one of my animatronics is a 8-foot boogeyman who has a child by its feet.
I love that. Yeah, when you showed that, I was like, that's dope.
And it just screams at the top of its lungs. So the kids do run away. But I will go ahead and put a bucket of candy at the end of the driveway and say, Mom, grab some out of the other bucket, right? If they don't make it all the way up. But it's not about scaring. It's just about giving them that really good memory. I still can't handle being scared. Having gone through a handful of haunted houses, I do that anxiety button, that fight or flight will get triggered from time to time.
Oh, yeah. When those chainsaws kick on, you can't help but move a little faster.
Most recent one, I went to, you saw the Universal video where I went through Walking Dead.
Yeah.
They will not let you film in Walking Dead.
They wouldn't. Yeah, because we filmed all of our houses last year, too, but Walking Dead still wouldn't let us film last year.
We still can't figure out why, because I've seen
it's
walkthroughs.
It's because it's licensed and it's on TV currently.
Right, and I've seen walkthroughs, don't get me wrong, I've seen walkthroughs of that thing. People have gotten away with it.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, but that one really got me. I just rushed through that one. I was just not interested. It was too real for me. Yeah, so I was really surprised. I remember the last thing I remember seeing was the truck. The guy in the back of the truck, like shooting the zombies, hanging, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. This is too much.
Now, have you seen the new animatronic that they're putting out through Spirit Halloween of the new Pennywise? It's a big full-size Pennywise, and he starts screaming and yelling at the kids holding a balloon.
See, the clown thing over the last couple of years has really been big, and I keep thinking that would be the new theme when I get done with the graveyard theme. They have a Pennywise, man. I might need to get if it's good. A lot of Spirit Halloween stuff is mediocre at best.
It's really cool. It's really cool.
All right.
So then next up, let me just do is there a type of horror that you kind of find yourself drawn to? You don't like maybe the
campy
Hereditary.
comedy. I love campy comedy. I want to laugh and then be scared, and then laugh and be scared, and laugh and be scared.
Have you seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
It's on my Netflix to watch list, and I've never sat down and watched it.
Bump it up.
It's really good.
It's hilarious.
What was the movie that had Thor in it? Cabin in the Woods?
Cabin in the Woods.
That's
another
easily
great
one of my favorite ones.
The Final Girls.
How meta that was.
The Final Girls is another fantastic one where a group of people going to an old school 80s throwback horror screening, but a fire starts inside the theater, and the characters, like, their only escape is to cut through the screen, and when they do, they go into the 80s slasher movie.
That's
and
amazing.
It's hilarious.
There was another movie I rewatched recently, but I saw it when I was in Upper Bound, so it must have been 15. It has a famous scene where a girl who's demonically possessed puts a lipstick through her nipple.
Yeah. Oh my God, I just saw that recently.
It's on like Amazon Prime.
Oh,
I
I just saw it. I was like, that's so weird. What was that?
I can't remember the name of that movie, but that's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Having rewatched it recently, I'm like, oh my god,
oh my god, I'm gonna blank on it. But I saw it and I was like, because I just saw it for the first time,
right?
Actually, and I was like, what is going on? So that was a trip for sure. Did you like the new It? Did you see the new It?
I love it.
Yeah.
So as a Stephen King fan, I was a big fan of the original miniseries, but it certainly was dated. This stuck way closer to the book, so there's definitely some liberties that are kind of weird. Like, I don't know, Pennywise doesn't polymorph in this one, so the whole point... Kind of. Like at one point they do show the wolf claw, if you remember that. Like, that was great.
Yeah, the wolf claw, and then his forearms turn into the spider.
Right, and then I guess at one point he does do the leper, and at one point he does... But I just feel like he's a clown most of the time, just like in the miniseries, and that's one of the biggest mistakes.
Fair.
Right, but
Fair.
At the end of the day, everything they've done, like including I think it was called the Black Spot. Is that the name of the club that got burnt down? And all these great nods to the book, because I read the book 1,000,000 years ago, but it's still just just imprinted on my brain. You can't read a 1,200-page book and forget it.
Yeah.
Right. And I spent an entire summer working my way through that book, and it's one of my favorites. I will listen to an audiobook every once in a while as well.
So you're excited for the new one in a few weeks?
I think they're going to nail it. Because the adult part was the bad part of the original miniseries, right? The kids were good, but the adult part was just embarrassing at parts.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, because you're a big Stephen King fan, I have to say I'm going to give this to you. So if you want to check it out, part of our show is he does a once weekly Hail to Stephen King episode, where he just sits down and talks all Stephen King for, it was twice a week, but yeah, our episodes, we actually put up one episode a day at least, usually two.
The Dark Towers, here's an offer I make to every fan that is watching this right now.
He loves Dark Towers.
If you have not read the Dark Tower series, buy the books. Read the entire Dark Tower series. It helps if you've read the other books that connect to it, but that's okay. Read the entire 7 books. If you do not like them, send me those 7 books in the mail. P.O. Box 107-328, Fayetteville, Arkansas. Send them to me in the mail. I will send you a check for the price you paid for those books. That's how much you're going to enjoy them. I've never had anybody take me up on that offer. That series is so good. If you don't enjoy it, it's your problem, not mine.
He loves it so much. We're actually toying with the idea of doing a gunslinger short featuring the Roland squaring off against the Man in Black in that first book.
And I think he'll agree with me. Don't watch the movie, because it's bad. I have yet to see the movie.
Don't watch it.
Well, I'm not going to start with it.
Yeah. So one of the other things that Boogie does that we haven't hit on yet is he's a big Twitch streamer. Twitch Boogie is a little different than this Boogie.
Right. So it's interesting because a lot of people think Twitch Boogie is also who I really am. And I always
You're confusing people with all of your personalities.
Right. So so YouTube Boogie is supposed to be the best version of me that I could possibly be, right? And that's true of all YouTubers. YouTubers make a very edited version of themselves, right? Twitch is going to be live stream, and so people think since it's live, this is accurate, right? But I will say and do things on Twitch that I would never do in 1,000,000 years in my real life. I will make jokes that I would never make in my private life. I wouldn't make hanging out with you. I will tend to really push the edge of the envelope. Now, I've really backed off a lot on that because a lot of those things I would say sarcastically have been taken out of context to not be sarcastic and to be treated as like, well, this is what he really thinks. This is what he really does. This is who he really is. But the original inspiration for that, though I'm certainly nowhere up to his caliber, was originally to be very Andy Kaufman-esque. I wanted to just kind of get in there and frustrate and irritate people and confuse people, and that was funny to me. Because I didn't start Twitch streaming because I needed the money. I don't Twitch stream now because I need the money. I Twitch stream now because it amuses me to do it, and it amuses other people. Still 500 people, concurrent when I'm streaming most times. So but I don't know. I probably should have not done it that way. I probably should have just been closer to my real self on these streams, but at the end of the day, the real me will peek in on those from time to time.
Sure.
But people are like, why is he joking about women right now? I'm like, I don't know, because it's funny.
Yeah.
Right? That's something I wouldn't say, so that's why it's funny. Right?
Playing against type.
Right, exactly.
Now, being a gamer and a Twitch streamer, and you mentioned the Blair Witch game, are there any horror games that you've played that have really stuck out to you?
I really enjoyed Alien Isolation. It was so terrifying to me.
Yeah.
The Resident Evil 2 remake was fantastic.
That was so fun.
Neither of these are games I've been able to make myself finish because I eventually get a bowling point where I'm so anxious I can't play them anymore.
Really?
The
Mr.
Friday
X
the
is chasing
13th
you
game
in
was
Resident
not
Evil?
scary at all,
Yeah.
but it was fun. I'm probably put 50 hours into the Friday 13th game.
Nice.
I do not recommend it because it was never really completed and it was always kind of buggy, but it was a social experience. It was really fun, especially if you pick it up on sale. I hear Dead by Daylight is supposed to be really good in that vein as well, but
Same
I've never
kind of
really
thing.
dabbled with it. But most of the traditionally horror games,
Resident Evil 7, did you try that one when it was released?
yeah, actually that's one of my favorites of all time. That's just
Nice.
one of my favorite games. Played through it twice, once most of the way through in VR, and then once entirely through without VR. And
Why did you switch back? Because I actually started it not in VR, and then I got it in VR, and I've only been able to make it like a little ways in.
I completed it entirely outside of VR,
Uh-huh.
and then was like, well, I'll go through it a second time in VR, and it won't be as scary because I'll know what's coming. No, when that woman's in your face at the beginning, I'm like, this is truly horrific.
Yeah.
Right? Like I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle
The
it.
fact that I can lean in and look inside the fridge, and all the bugs are skittering around and stuff.
Right,
It's just like, this is a trip.
Yeah, it was. It's probably one of the very few fully immersive VR games that are like a full-fledged gaming experience. So it's highly recommended in that regards. But at the end of the day, I just can't. Man, they just get to me too good. But Outlast or any of those more traditional scary games.
Yeah.
Oof.
I tried to play Outlast 2, but in its original release, it was just too unforgiving and hard and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So they actually had to nerf it a few months later. So I haven't gone back. But now,
There was a butterfly effect style game too that was made.
yeah,
what's that one called?
Until Dawn.
Until Dawn. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was great.
we-
The new one is actually by the same creators. The Man of Medan is coming out, or Man of Medan is coming out in the next month.
That gives me something to play
Their
during
follow-up,
Halloween
yeah.
month. Nice.
Yeah. Now, just a couple of trends that have been huge in movies, especially horror movies, and are now trickling into, well, actually it's been going big in games for a while too, is remakes and reboots. What do you think about that? Do you think the money would be better spent elsewhere, or do you think it's okay to revisit these properties for younger generations, or is it Hollywood not being creative? What do you think?
So I think Stephen King's It is a good example of a wonderful reboot. It's legendary status, and if it's a legendary status, I'm okay with rebooting it. We were talking about Rob Zombie rebooting Halloween. I think you could have just kept going with Halloween, and I feel like the more recent movie, the one with Jamie Lee Curtis, did a great job of continuing the original story. I feel like that's what they should have done with that. Halloween is likewise legendary, but you could have picked up where that left off. You couldn't have done that with it. So I think there's periods of time where you do need to retell and recreate and rebuild, but I do think if Robert Englund is no longer available for Freddy, then maybe it's okay to reboot that in a few years because that is legendary status.
They tried in 2010, and
did they?
people weren't really happy. They put Jackie Earle Haley in as Freddy,
Right.
Who most
Was
people.
Robert Englund available though?
I'm sure they just didn't pay him enough because they were just rebooting it.
And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Like if he's still available, then you don't have a reason to reboot.
That's
you have
true.
a reason to continue.
Especially actors that are under makeup, because you can't tell the aging
Exactly,
that much.
right?
Yeah.
Right now I get it if he's in a wheelchair, but I don't think he is.
No, not yet. He's still really spry. He just did a whole shoot at a convention last week
Right.
with a bunch of the girls
Or
from the Nightmare
even
series.
go ahead and body double it and let him voice it if he's in a wheelchair. Right? Like let Freddy Krueger be Freddy Krueger. You know?
So last question then, before I get your, where to send everyone and everything. What horror situation would you least like to find yourself in? Like, what have you seen that you would be like, God, if I was in
that involves running because I am dead. Zombie apocalypse.
Zombieland,
Okay, so
Zombieland situation, first rule cardio.
Here's the thing. I often think about this. I just rewatched the movie. There's a new one coming out. I can't wait to watch
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
it's
But
exciting.
That said, I think in a Walking Dead situation, I think I'm lucky enough to where there's enough people out there who like me that I would have a nice posse to be able to survive in that situation. If we don't get the zombie mass flood, I think me and my friends, we own enough guns, we got enough property, we're going to be okay. I think we're going to take over the local jail and we're going to be all right. But I will not have to run in that situation. If it's one that I have to run, I'm dead.
Yeah.
But I think also the movie that scared me the most was Event Horizon.
Oh my God, quality! You know they're doing an Amazon series apparently.
No, I will not watch it because I grew up.
Hell in space.
I'm not really Christian much anymore, but the whole satanic panic of the late 70s, early 80s, and then why they continue that all the way up to Event Horizon, I don't know. But The Exorcist and all Hellraiser, the Hellraiser series terrifies me because I genuinely believe that might happen when I die.
Oh, no.
And so I don't want to watch that. When I watch a zombie film, I can think, oh, zombies don't exist, is that right? And when I watch a Jason murder people, like, hey, if somebody tried to murder me, I just shoot him, I'd be all right, okay? But I can't do anything when they start driving pins into my head, okay?
It'd be less that. It'd be more chains ripping the flesh off your bones.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, God. Thank you for that horrible instant visual reminder.
Sure.
Oh.
Well, mine personally is the like falling off a cruise ship out in the middle of the ocean.
Oh my
and
God.
pitch black night. Because I took a cruise one time, and at night we were on our balcony, and at night you cannot see the difference between where the water ends and where the sky begins. So it's literally just nothing but black. And my heart would be pounding like a dying fish, and that's what attracts sharks. And so that's just the scariest scenario I can
Until you
imagine.
eventually drown and eat that seawater or get eaten by something in that seawater.
I would be lying if I didn't say that one of the deaths that I cling to the most in a book I like called Meg, that the movie was based on last year, the giant shark movie that was garbage, but the book is good. One of the people that's about to get eaten sees the shark coming at him and opens its maw, and he just goes, just like inhales as much water as he can to drown himself before it happens.
Smart.
And I'm like, yep.
Smart.
Yep.
But that's interesting. Now that we're really talking about any scenario that has me dying, I'm not really afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
It's eternal, everlasting damnation that terrifies me.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, so kill me however you want, because at the end of it, I die, and that's cool, right? Because death is just a thing. That's inevitable anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is waking up after that.
Yeah.
And then Pinhead's there with some chains and a big spiked
Welcome, Boogie.
Oh, no.
See, something that's always gotten me as a bigger guy, and I don't know if you shared this, but to me, cramped spaces, like being put in a coffin, and
That
I'm
sounds
not
awful.
to get out, like, because
Yeah.
then you're like, being a big guy, I need my space anyway, and like to be like claustrophobic when you have to squeeze through places in a haunted house.
Okay.
That always gets to me.
All right, you ready for this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody kidnaps us.
Okay.
Chloroforms
Oh, no.
us, okay? Locks us in a very small basement. And while we're in there, they make us exist by cutting off our own fat and feeding it to us until we're eventually emaciated and die from infection. I mean, literally, it's nothing but antibiotics and parts of our own skin until we finally die a year later.
I like to think that round about 9 months, I'd get a mirror and be happy with what I looked like for the first time in my life.
I mean, maybe. Man, I've got some self-loathing, but if you would look in the mirror and be like, well, at least I'm skinny, you win the
I've got some issues,
prize,
buddy. I've
dude.
got some issues.
That's bad. Wow. Wow. Well, if anybody's watching and you're the kind of person that would show up at our house unmolested,
There you go.
he's asking for it,
Yeah,
honestly.
torture me, I'll cut off my fat. Actually, no, they did that in the in one of the Saw movies. There was two people, and they're both like locked into this machine, and whoever gives more flesh, there's a scale on the other side
So the fat
of this
guy
trough.
wins?
The fat guy, the fat guy is winning because he just keeps cutting parts of him off and throwing it in the scale, and then the other lady actually wins because she just ends up hacking off her whole arm and tossing it through. So it's like, oh my God, but still, as a fat guy, I'm like, I don't ever want to be in that situation.
No. Please do not make me eat myself.
So now you're going to get a meat man visiting you. How ironic would that be?
Well, it's okay if you eat me. At least my body's going to a purpose.
Yeah,
That's
true.
all right.
True.
Hey, look, like Sam Kinison, if I'm getting really gross, you're going to have to cut this off for YouTube, I bet. But
Well,
Sam
probably.
Kinison talked about, like, when he died, what he wanted. He's like, I don't care what happens to my body. Give it to cannibals. Give it to necrophiliacs. I don't care. It's not any use to me. As long as it's use to them, let it have a use. Let it have a purpose. It's not like I'm laying on the slab feeling it happen.
One of my favorite radio personalities here in KUPD in Arizona, he says, when I die, I don't care. I want to make a spectacle of it. He's like, throw my body out of a plane to have it land in the middle of a crowded stadium during a football game.
Yeah, that was
just
a
go
party
out
with
in
it.
style. You
Right,
know?
don't donate me to science, because science doesn't have anything to do with me, okay? Donate me to cannibals and necrophiliacs,
Yeah,
all right?
really.
Let's get weird with it.
If you wheeled me into a scientist on a gurney, they'd be like, why? I have so much work now.
We already know that eating too much is bad on you. Get this out of here.
I can tell you right now, heart attack. Next, you know?
Yeah, take it to the meat guy. He's hungry, okay?
All right, guys. Well, I think we're going to call it there. Boogie has been extraordinarily generous with his
thank you, my
time.
friend.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much. Now, where can people go and find you? I will obviously drop a link to all of this in the description box so people can click it.
I'm still making videos on YouTube, talking about video games, talking about my life, talking about the world, doing travel vlogs, and the occasional Rare Francis sketch. If you want to see old school YouTube the way it used to be, you can go to storyfire.com or download Storyfire on any device now. And you get it on your iPhone, you get it on your Android device. We're in our early stages. We're still developing the app, but there's old school Psycho Kid rages, Francis rages, Lance Stewart pranks, you name it. It's there, and it's, we're working hard on it, so I hope you'll join us. And that's pretty much it. Don't check me out on Twitch. You'll just learn to hate me there. Because I'm just going to mess with you
Be
really
open-minded.
badly.
Just know that this is Boogie, not Francis, not Twitch Boogie. This is the version that he's striving to be.
Oh, that's a much better. This is much better. The person who talks about letting somebody out there have sex with his corpse, that's the real man.
That's how we got to end it.
You know my intro. Can you do my outro?
I was already planning on it.
Ooh, let's see.
I was already planning on it. So I gotta spice it up a little bit with our stuff first.
Of course.
So if you guys enjoyed the video, click the like button. Actually, I do this a little bit like you too. If you want to, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you can be notified when any of our episodes go up. Also, if you want to become a patron, the link is in the description box down below, as well as the store where you can get this very shirt right here.
I love this shirt.
But guys, thank you very much. I love you very much. And I've been Cecil Laird.
I'm YouTuber Boogie2988.
And, sorry, let me do that in the right order. I love you very much, and we'll speak to you again really soon.
Thanks for watching.
Ah, fuck, I forgot that.
Close.